Welcome to the Stories Are Soul Food podcast, presented by Cannonball Books, the kids' fiction imprint of Cannon Press.
Met a ghost of a king on the road when I first fell. Fire burning to my knees I fell. Met a ghost of a king on the road.
Welcome back to SASF. This is episode 80-something on our...
ticking toward 90.
Yeah, inching toward 90. And without counting, how are we going to know when it's 90?
Well, we won't, I think. I think
Okay.
counting is required in order to know.
We call this, we're going to have a big party for episode XCE, as the Romans
We
called
will.
their
We'll have a big
podcast.
party. I'll check.
The way the ancient Romans numbered podcast was the better way.
That's dumb, but I like it.
Dumb Latin joke to start off the day. Okay.
Okay, a couple questions. First from Andrew, one of your fans, wants to know how Sam's snakes would have shed.
How they would have shed?
Would it have shed like the entire, his skin comes off too? Just a little bit of snake peeling. Anyways,
I like it.
He has a very specific herpetological question.
I'm going to go ahead and I like the idea of Sam shedding whole sleeves. Realistically, I think it would be more lizard-like.
Yeah, piece at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you'd be peeling off their backs and it would go awfully quickly because of course Sam would be able to pick at it
Oh yeah,
like
that's
a
way
boy
faster.
and just
Snakes
peel,
don't
and
have
just,
fingers.
Yeah, and just peel off that gray layer. The real question is, would it itch for Sam or just for Speck and Cindy? Would they be grinding on rocks while he was asleep, or would he be feeling scratchy and just
And have to
peeling
itch
off
it.
and peeling it off? And
Used to
I kind of like both of those things. So I'm going to go ahead and say both.
Nice.
But the sleeves, while they would be a great visual, I think are not, in fact, the way
yeah,
it would
so
go.
we're not gonna just like peel
Yeah.
a hole.
Yeah.
Like skinning a rabbit.
It is really funny, and this is an excursus, and then I have a couple things to hit. I don't know. Do you have any other questions for people?
That's a good one. Andrew
Yeah.
had a mean one about whether Silent Bell's book 4 or your daughter's novel would be published first, but I decided not to. Decided not to ask that.
That's a good question too. Yeah, hard to say, Andrew. I think it's funny to me. So I'm going to run through a couple things. One is, first off, a bunch of people listened to our episode in which I ranted about Stickergate, talked about Stickergate, and we got a bunch of legal donations to the fund. So I just want to thank everybody who did that. Thank you very much.
Way to go, team.
Those bullets are shipped off to the front and much appreciated. So
I've got so many requests to restock the stickers so people can contribute that way. So,
fantastic. We weren't planning like a fundraising episode. We just kind of rolled into that as we occasionally do. And it was very much appreciated. We're very, very grateful to all of you who donated to the legal fund. The defense continues and further updates as events warrant. The second update is I tried to show my children Rings of Power because I don't know the word. My friend Boss Rutan once told me something awful. Boss Rutan, Dutchman,
ex-MMA.
hilarious fighter, MMA fighter, heavyweight fighter, joy to be around. Amazing guy, stone cold killer / jovial. He's probably the closest thing to a grizzly bear you'll ever know in a human being.
He is a great character in Mercy Rule.
Yeah.
I remember.
So
him.
he's very, very happy, jolly, joyful, fun. But you get the feeling that he could kill you in any given 5 seconds, but or anyone. But Boss told me something horrible, and I think it was on the set of River Thief actually, and I don't even remember what it was. But I don't even want to try to remember what it was. But he had some horrible tale, and I was like, "Boss, why?" And he whipped out some Dutch word, and the Dutch phrase or Dutch word I can't tell, and told me that it's the basically. It means that a horrible thing is lighter shared across multiple people. So you like when you know something awful, the reason why you need to share it is because once two people know, it's
It's a share the load thing.
Yeah, it is.
From the original Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
movies.
So anyway, all this to say is I needed to show my kids Rings of Power because Brian made me watch 5 minutes of it. And so while we were waiting for one of the siblings to come downstairs to watch something else, we Lost, actually. We're still chipping away through episodes of Lost. I threw on the beginning of Rings of Power, and my 3 daughters, 12, 18, and 19, sat there stunned. Just profoundly stunned in a at all levels, begging it to stop. From the 12, the 18, and the 19-year-old. My 19-year-old had a screenwriting class at a state university that she'd picked up on the side last year. And her comment was, "This is worse than what any of my classmates in a freshman screenwriting course would have done at a state agricultural school."
Ag college, yeah.
It was just like overstated theme.
Man,
and also,
the
but
theme's
like
so long.
But even that, like overstated theme in a, is this even the theme kind of way? Or are you just trying to sound deep?
Well, because they whispered the key part.
Yeah, well, that's. But
it would have been worse if they
the
said
the rock sinks, the ship looks up to the light. But how do I know which way is up?
And then I know he said, "You look inside your heart," but we'll have to wait.
What you do is you look down again down your own throat.
Right. But he didn't say that out
Get
loud.
a beer.
So you'll have to wait till episode whenever when I find out that is what in fact.
Get a beer
he
and
said.
an iPhone light and look down your throat at your own heart. Anyway, I shared the evil, and I don't remember the Dutch phrase or the Dutch word. Anybody who knows Dutch can tell me.
Please let us know.
I mean, there's always a possibility that Boz was just lying to me too.
Oh,
that there is no Dutch phrase or Dutch word for such a thing. But
I also tried to share the evil with Christy, and she fell asleep like that.
Boom.
It was just
defense mechanism.
Yep.
Like a fainting goat. She was just out.
Christy said, I wasn't excited about this or interested in this, and you're making me watch it.
And you said, Ephesians 5.
And then she fell asleep.
Boom, boom. The Apostle Paul says, and she's like,
yeah. So there's response.
So there's that. I shared the evil with my kids. And then I also, and incidentally, my kids are also catching on to the gimmick of Lost of like constantly positing new mysteries and layers and like, but does this onion have a center?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just
layers?
Is it just more rings? But we're still in the first season and they're still enjoying it.
Well, do you want to address all the people who are going to say you really had to watch the whole first episode? I mean, they're going to say it, even though we talked about that.
I'll just say heavy sigh.
That's Nate at his saddest, most patronizing.
No, it's not patronizing. It's empathetic.
Yeah.
Isn't that what empathy means?
Yeah, you jump into the quicksand with the people.
I'm pretty sure that's what empathy means, is heavy sigh, right?
Yeah.
When people say things I don't like.
When someone shares something awful with you.
I heavy sigh, and I call that empathy. So if somebody says, here is a bucket of clam linguine from a recent startup down by the interstate. There's this little restaurant trying to make it, and I have to taste it. And I know you really have to taste this. You really have to taste
I brought the spoon and the bucket.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to taste this clam linguine because Brian surprised me in a podcast. Otherwise I wouldn't have even done that. And I taste it. And for 5 straight minutes, I eat that clam linguine. I'm pretty sure I don't have to finish the bucket. And then everybody could say, but what if it gets better half an inch further in to this bucket or 2 inches further into this bucket? And I say to you all, what if? Yeah, it's not going to.
Okay, gotcha. That's good. I like it. Metaphor is the last defense of the author.
The last recourse. I will say though, there are plenty of shows where people will say, hey, the pilot struggles or it picks up after, watch this film, it picks up here, there, or, the Alien franchise. Which movie's best in the Alien franchise? I don't really want to show my kids the whole Alien franchise, but I do want to show them Aliens at some point.
Is that number 2?
Yeah. So I kind of want to show them Alien in order to get to Aliens.
Yeah.
And it's not like Alien is terribly made, but I want them to see Aliens specifically for particular scenes, the older ones. And it'll have to be kind of a unique situation because none of them are interested. They're not like goopy monster fans.
Which, by the way, Lord of the Rings directors, Peter Jackson was a goopy monster
very
fan.
much a goopy monster fan. then to jump from here, so I told you that I shared the evil with my daughter. And then my daughters, plural, all three of them. One of whom just looked at it in stunned silence. One of whom said, "What is going on and what does it mean?" Like, what is, and the eldest who said, "This is worse than anything written by any of my classmates." At the ag school, University of Idaho, for being specific, where she took a screenwriting class. Yeah, so I did that. I also thanked all y'all who contributed to the Legal Defense Fund. I'm really, really grateful to you. And then I'll say, to Andrew's point about Silent Bells, this whole endeavor, I'm actually more grateful than ever for the model. So Ashtown, for those of you who are listeners of this podcast now, but are they don't know the whole backstory, I'm not going to get into all of it. But there's a trilogy, and then through various political drama,
explained in earlier episodes.
Yeah, various political drama. Book 4 was canceled. Fans were tragically sad. I moved on and had to make a living, and trying to circle back, I had fans who were stranded in this series and really, really wanted it to be completed. And I heard from them all the time, and I really wanted to complete the series as well. So I came up with the idea of publishing it a chapter at a time in a newspaper format and mailing it out. And it's a rough draft. So this is like, as it's written, I will throw my dignity in the ditch, and I will let you come into the kitchen with me while I'm, making a mess. And like, that's how I pushed it. And it's like, okay, you're going to come into the kitchen, and this is, welcome to the writer's life, and I'm going to release the rough draft in installments. And in that, like that format, like I'll charge you when I have a chapter and when it prints and when it mails, and I'll mail you a physical copy in a newspaper. I wanted it to be kind of like old school, and thousands of people signed up, and I was extremely grateful and started going. And I got 15 chapters in, and my gallbladder exploded.
I'm sorry to laugh. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And so I ended up in emergency surgery, and this is about a year ago. And I was desperate to try to finish the manuscript last year. At least the rough draft. But I was also all excited because I had this housing disaster, and we've talked about house construction, but I was putting siding on my own new home and like tearing siding off and fixing siding. And I was all excited because I finally was like, the sun is shining. I have time. And God said, don't do this. As I pulled a ladder from one gable, I finished exactly one gable in this lovely week, and then moved the ladder. And as I got to the other side, I was like, oh man, I feel dizzy. And like, what's this pain? And it turned into like incapacitated, in total incapacitation, and went into emergency gallbladder surgery. And I also had this impending overall film deal with a studio coming, and I knew I did. And it was starting November 1st. So this was about a year ago. And November 1st was like, oh, garbage. There's all this writing coming. Huge amounts of writing coming at me. And I had this window in which to try to finish a rough draft of Silent Bells. And I lost that window to trying to recover from gallbladder surgery. And I think I did get I don't remember what it was. I think it was at chapter 13. And I got 2 done after that. Like I successfully got back from gallbladder surgery and got 2 chapters out, and then hit the wall of all my film and TV commitments. And since that time, like it's been writing. I mean, last night, like I'm very driven by a Sabbath rhythm. So I will always stop working Saturday at 6:00 and start working, if I start working again, Sunday at 6:00 if I really need to. But I'll always like break for 24 hours. But sometimes it feels like, am I really like, did I really take a break? I mean, last night I sent off something that was due to a studio in London. I knew they had to have it Monday morning. And
fun.
It's like and by last night, I mean at 4:35 this morning, it's like, so I took my 24 hours with my kids and we hung out, we played cornhole, and it's like we watched some things, and we watched Tom Cruise's the new Top Gun, incidentally, which I could talk about also.
We should do that.
But we watched Top Gun, and then everybody we hit dinner and they start doing homework, and I drove off to my office and I worked until 4:30 in the morning. So I put in, like a 9-hour, by the time I got there, and actually was at my desk, and settled in like a 9-hour shift last night. And then,
nice.
Took a nap this morning and got up and hit it because it's
because soul
food's coming. And so it's like, you're going. I think it's really funny and then every week I'll receive just scolds from readers who are scolding me about Silent Bells. I'm just like, you know what? The thing is, I invited you into my kitchen.
You don't like what you found there.
Welcome to my kitchen. I'm not surprised that you don't like what you have found, which is that occasionally the KitchenAid explodes. And in this metaphor, the KitchenAid is my gallbladder. And it puts me way behind.
As I said, metaphor, recourse.
It puts me way behind. The restructure I'm pursuing right now to try to cope with the amount of writing I'm doing more writing right now than I've ever done in my life. And I've done a lot.
Is this your Tuesday through Thursday silent time?
Yeah. And it's starting to look like it's going to be like Tuesday through Friday, where it's like I just put my, seal my phone in a bag and no email, no phone. I've got an emergency number only, and that's it. I'm just gone. That I hope I'll catch up on all the projects I have going, and then be able to make forward progress and get Silent Bells to the end of the line. Silent Bells will be finished, but I'm really grateful that we did it the way we did it, and I didn't kickstart it or something, because people were telling me to kickstart it. And I went with this, you don't pay for any chapter until you get it. And I'm really grateful, because if I had taken everybody's money for the whole project, and then I'm taken out, and then I'm behind, it'd be horrendous. So instead, everybody's paid through 15. Nobody's been charged for 16. They won't be charged for chapter 16 until 16 comes out. And I can tell you, any listener, that no one's more committed to getting this finished than I am or my family members are. So you might think that you feel urgent, but you do not. You don't know what urgency is. But so I bet on me. I bet all that to say, I bet that my novel will be finished before my daughter's.
Okay. Wow. You heard it here.
Yeah. And then, of course, bear in mind that it's a rough draft. And so then I'd have to do multiple drafts of revisions before it was ever published as a final draft. So yeah, but I'm really grateful for the model, because when I got knocked off the rails and got put way behind and my window closed, I hadn't taken anybody's money yet for chapters I hadn't received. So I am trying to recreate my schedule such that these chapters can be completed. I have a doc of chapter 16 open and staring at me, and I'm constantly in it. It's but I have all the threads. I've got the thread map from the previous 15 chapters, and to get up to full speed, to re-engage and get up to full speed in fiction writing with all of it is difficult. It takes a minute, especially I can't just jump in and write, or else it'd be a really terrible chapter. And everybody would be saying, you're contradicting chapter 4. You just contradicted yourself in chapter 8. And even though it's a rough draft, I have no desire to do that. It is a rough draft. Everybody knows it's a rough draft, but I still don't want to bring thousands of fans into overt contradictions. At least we're avoidable. So anyway, that's the Silent Bells answer. Someday it'll be finished, hopefully while I'm still on this earth.
Yeah.
The real question is, will my daughter have to finish it for me when I am gone?
That is the real question now.
I hope not.
Oh, awesome. Well, okay, I was going to ask you, people enjoyed your rhetoric quick course, and
oh, nice.
Who are you, who are they? And I thought we should jump into the role of emotion and persuasion, but then I don't think we have time for it. I think
should we tease it?
Maybe tease it or just do Top Gun because we could talk that one too.
Okay, let's in future we'll talk about what the nature of proof is. How about that?
That's a great
and why
one.
We'll talk next. Should we say that for episode 90 or do it next week?
We'll see if we get a good one for next week, but it might be next week.
Well, we should talk about what is proof. What is the nature of proof? Because what does it mean to prove something to somebody?
Yeah.
Because to answer that question is to answer the question of why art, like why narrative and art is actually valuable and compelling.
And this is one that makes people mad.
It infuriates people, but
this
especially
is one of your theories that blows people's hair back pretty good. So
yeah, well, it's not a theory, Brian.
I haven't seen the proof yet.
It's truth. It's truth.
What is the nature of proof?
Yeah. So the nature of proof. What does it mean to prove something? And that reveals a lot of rationalism in people, a lot of like post-enlightenment modernism, and to really talk through it and really understand it at a deep level suddenly opens the gates, and you understand why narrative is so important, why art, why music, why beauty is so essential, and part of that why rightly ordered emotion, is so essential. Which is to say, why did God make the world the way He did? So that is a big one, and we'll save it for its own episode.
We should save it for 90.
But that one, what does it mean to prove something? We'll save. Top Gun. We'll finish that. We're doing kind of a buffet here. We're doing a little a la carte. We had some questions. We had some. Andrew heckling.
Yep.
Do we know Andrew? Where's Andrew from?
I don't know Andrew. He's one of your young readers.
From our dear friend Andrew.
He sent actually a lot of questions. I was impressed.
Actually, I've been hit with a number of others, also, especially for book recommends. And I'm just going to say, so I did the book recommend thing. I'll say, Stephen Lawhead.
There you go.
Read you some Stephen Lawhead. That was big for me. There's very few Christian writers who actually hit me when I was 12.
Yeah.
And hit me in a way and on the way up, other than the Inklings. So outside of the Inklings, like Christian writers who hit me in the imagination effectively, Stephen Lawhead was one of them. In the Hall of the Dragon King and Warlords of Nin, and that series specifically. He's written a ton of other stuff, and there's other good things. So this is not to slight.
Oh, did you? So you read his fantasy? I was thinking his historical fiction.
Fantasy.
Okay.
You think like Byzantium?
Yeah, I read the Byzantium ones, his Rude, the Holy Rude ones.
Yep, and those were cool, but they grabbed me less. His fantasy when I was, 5th, 6th grade, and then all the way through junior high, his In the Hall of the Dragon King, Warlords of Nin series.
Gotcha.
Was big for me. So I'll just say recommended there.
I had a number of kids, Robin Hood series too, right?
Yeah. Yep. I had a number of kids ask me for recommendations, and Lawhead.
There you go.
Read you some Lawhead.
Check.
As far as Top Gun goes, I started watching some Cobra Kai.
Okay, the show. Yep.
And I started watching, and Cobra Kai to me was a gimmick, and then it starts getting Emmys and is still around, and in season 5, and people are still talking about it in the industry and talking about emulating it and yada yada. And
I was never interested in watching it.
No, neither was I. And so I was like, okay, fine.
Because it's just about the bad guy from.
So I dipped my toe in the early seasons. I don't know the show. I just know the early season. And desperately needs VidAngel when it is on VidAngel, so that's fine. It needs the.
Isn't it just 80s trivia nonstop?
No.
Okay. That's Stranger Things.
Yeah. That was my expectation, but it was not.
Okay.
So dipped my toe in Cobra Kai, and then we watched Top Gun Maverick, which I'd missed in theaters. But some of my kids had seen. And there are thematic overlaps to why it was successful. And I'd heard a lot of things about both that were totally unrelated to what I think is actually kind of core to what made it sticky. And I also had heard a lot of demeaning things, including from you, Brian, about the Top Gun movie.
Uh-oh. I mean, I did demean it a little.
You were demeaning. You were demeaning. And I actually, maybe that's good, because I went into it with like a really, really low really low bar. And I was sitting there thinking,
I watched it in theaters.
this is significantly better than I was expecting.
Okay.
I mean, significantly. So
Okay. Tell me why.
Now this is not to say that it's not popcorn, obviously.
Right.
It's the corn has been popped.
Right.
But this is popcorn, heavy popcorn. But it really surprised me how much they leaned into his age and his dinosaurness, right?
Yeah.
And they just went with that. And I was like, oh, perfect. I'm so glad that they're not trying to
Youth him up.
Yeah, they're not trying to pawn Tom Cruise off on us as young and spry. And also the things that made him so likable and he's going to succeed are actually what doomed his career. And so you have like, he is himself and he is in a dead end in a cul-de-sac because of the exact choices that made him the hero of an 80s movie.
Yeah.
So
inability to ever listen to someone else.
Yeah. Like he just constant rule breaking, constant. Now, suddenly we have a show where we need a rule breaker again. So it's like, okay, we got to bring him in. Great. We're going to get dust off the old rule breaker. But
give him your cruise.
Yeah. But they show us at the outset, he's still a screw up.
Yeah.
Like he's a screw up in the exact same way. But we like that he goes for it, but he's a screw up.
Mm.
And then he's this dinosaur. And then when he comes in, and the thing that's really interesting, in a very kind of, I won't say understated. I'll say understated for a pop commercial film. It's loud, but it's understated for a pop commercial film. In an understated way, they set up this intense generational conflict between
him and
the absolute wussy Navy of today and the way things used to be. And it's like, oh, it's nobody all over again. Okay. Here he comes. It's like, it's a bunch of snowflake pilots. Here's all the snowflake, and they got all their ego and they're all the things. And there's the token chick, and she's trying to be a boy. And he comes in, and immediately like, oh, she's going to make all the cuts, and they're never going to say anything judgmental of her at any point. She's going to be present, but there will be no criticism. Everybody else is going to get razzed or heckled or whatever.
Yeah, the insane numbers of push-ups somehow she will pull off.
yeah, just whatever, just no comment.
Yeah.
But it like the starting point is this old dog just schools all these young punks who know nothing and they're weak. You're all weak, and you've all been made weak by tech. It's like none of you know what it actually is to put it on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that in the officers who are refusing to engage, where it's like, oh, we're actually here to fight, but it's like, oh no, that would involve fighting, so we can't do that. Pull them back. And you see that in the Texas school shooting, that horrible tragedy where it's like cops held back because they would get shot at. It's like,
wow, that makes it real.
Where it's like, yeah, like that's your job to go in there and get shot.
Yeah,
like go get shot. And the big culmination for Cruise's character is his opportunity to lay his life down for his friend's kid.
Mm-hmm.
When he actually throws himself in the way of a missile, when he does one of his little trick moves just to get hit and eject, and the arrival of his dead buddy's son's character is when he takes the risk to defy orders to come back and do the same exact thing for Cruise, where he's now the young blood who comes in and takes out the chopper, saves Cruise's life, gets hit with a SAM and has to eject himself. Where like he's taking high risks. They're both sacrificing themselves. And like he's finally like Rooster, this kid is now like Maverick. He's become this father-son dynamic. And so when Maverick's mad at him and he's been trying to keep him safe and he hits him, what are you thinking? You're an idiot. And he says, you told me not to think, which is basically Maverick's trademark.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now they have this like you are now now the adoptive son in this situation successfully. But either way, the point is the undercurrent of generational weakness and like judgment that comes, just like the narrative judgmentalness on the younger snowflakes, and they all have to man up. They all have to level up to an older times level.
Yeah. But then they don't have to because he just does it.
No, they do.
They still have to improve. I guess.
No,
Rooster does.
they level up, but they still could never even level up to his level. Even doing so, they don't.
So it's a tragedy.
Yeah. No, they get closer. Like, it's like, but that's when he proves to them that they could do it by doing the course at 215 and they've been failing to do it at 230.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they all go harder and faster and better than they ever could have before, which is still not at his level.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, they do the gimmicky thing of him doing it at the end. It's like, it needed to be that way, honestly, for the movie to be fun.
Well, yeah, that's
where the corn was popped.
That's where it was the corn.
That's where the corn was the most buttery, for sure.
Well, also the fact that nobody, like in the first Maverick, when Goose dies, that's like a real moment. And they didn't want to go there in this one. Right? So when that kid's falling out of the sky, he faints and falls out of the sky, but doesn't die. In the first movie, I think they would have been willing to have one of them. It didn't feel like it was on the line.
The thing is that he's haunted by the death.
So that's still present.
And he's still present. He's really heavily haunted by this death.
Yeah.
And if you add another one, it's just
like,
it's a diffusion. So it's actually a diffusion of grief and actually will like wishbone his tensions, his personal tension. So
you think it would
it's not to say nobody could have died, but I understand why they didn't.
Because that actually is more he then has responsibility.
There's a more concentrated focus. Like it keeps his grief more concentrated and his guilt more concentrated in one place, as opposed to suddenly he has guilt all over the all over.
So you're saying he already has that father, because he would obviously have major father grief if one of the pilots died.
Yep.
And he already has that because Rooster's dad.
And he already has
father
this
grief.
Yep. And he already has this stressor going with Rooster. So I think it would have been weird if they'd had one of them die in training.
Yeah.
But I think that would have been difficult. But it was funny to me.
Yeah.
That it's popcorn and yay, military, yay, America, yay, blowing up a nuclear site. And we're just doing a very binary. They're bad guys. We're going to blow it up. We're not going to double cross congressmen. There's no twisting and turning and all this kind of stuff. It's just bad guys. How do we do the mission? Train for the mission. Get the mission done. The mission's impossible. Mission impossible. We're going to get it done. Let's go. But it's popcorn. But at the same time, the crackle, the generational crackle
is real.
And
I did feel that it is interesting to fast forward 20 years into Maverick's career. And he'd be like that. That kind of person would be.
Yep. And then of course the other thing is like they even gave a hat tip to the stupid beach volleyball scene from the first Top Gun movie.
I was going to say that's the most unbelievable part. That they would stop keeping score in a football game.
Well, if you're doing dogfight football, they're made up football game. Sure, I get it. But the thing is, like, it's a weird hat tip to the beach scene in the first Top Gun,
right? While
not doing what Tony Scott did, where Tony Scott said, I mean, this is one of the things that you just learn about stuff. But Tony Scott said he didn't know how to market this film to women, and so he proved that he really didn't know by saying he just shot that scene, inserted that volleyball scene, and shot it like a gay porn.
Ooh.
And that his goal was to shoot it like a gay porno, like the just and it's like, but it's sort of like these guys, and it's all very homoerotic, and that was his directorial goal.
Yikes!
For the first Top Gun, for the volleyball scene.
Yeah.
So now, what the heck, Tony? But everybody knows that. Anybody who's seen that's been like, what on earth? What does this have to do with the story at all?
Yeah.
What is this? What does this do? They did a beach scene. They inserted a beach scene and actually did a better job of tying it to the plot and the goal of what he's doing.
Just like they work together.
And didn't, it's like, we're here to mess around and have teamwork, and didn't make it homoerotic.
They didn't eroticize
at all.
Yeah. But I do think they'd keep score, right? These are pilots.
They lost track.
The most competitive people in the world. They don't keep score.
I'll give you that, Brian. I'll give you that.
Okay.
But it's there were times when the ref was catching the ball and getting tackled. So I think it was pretty free form. It was a little bit Montessori out there.
Oh, wow.
But it's but yeah, you're probably right. But that, and then you jump over to Cobra Kai, and I was like, okay, so in concept, this is funny that you take the villain from the famous movie. You get the actors back. Like you successfully got the leads.
Wow.
back, and then you make him the solo sensei of the super sympathetic bullied kid. And you make the good guy from the franchise, like the super earnest guy losing track of his children and like not doing a good job as a dad and struggling. So he's got all this struggle. And you have this anti-hero, obviously down and out, hard drinking guy who's been a loser ever since that moment. And been on this bad track, who's finally going to pick himself back up, and he becomes the sensei for this solo kid. And then hilariously, immediately starts going off in this very 80s way. And as the kid saying, "You're really genderizing everything." And again, the guy just ripping on that completely and leaning into that, mocking the snowflakeness and telling him to be a man and stop punching like a girl and just go. And it's like, okay, why did this work? Why did this immediately stick? It's not all the Karate Kid fans. It's part of it's that. But this was not made for and targeted to people who loved Karate Kid.
Yeah, it didn't feel derivative like
it's
that.
Like it's connected to it, but it actually pulled in a completely different kind of viewer and a different demo. And the weird subversiveness here, and like I said, badly needs Bad Angel. And I've only watched a couple episodes of the first season, but just even watching that, I was like, oh man, I know why this stuck. Like the way they flipped the heroes very creatively, the way there's an anti-hero with the sympathetic kid, like the super good sympathetic kid. And he's on this path to redemption and struggling. And then there's the guy who has been the winner ever since. It's like all the way down, who's really struggling and failing as a parent. And they're both failing as parents. And there's there's a lot more going on. Okay. And there's also people learning how to sneakily mock culture.
Gotcha. And you think that harmonizes on the broader level. So immediately as you jump into it, you feel there's something here I identify with.
Yeah. When a principal stands up and tells a cafeteria full of high school kids, like, we want to give you a warning about not being insensitive this Halloween. And, instead of being a nurse, why not go as a non-gender hospital worker? And like, they play it for laughs. Like they're actually kind of, they're trying to show people a little bit of what now looks like from 1980s eyes. And it's kind of, that flip
that's an interesting,
like that flip is funny, where it's just like, look at the wusses. Like it just like like there's just, and there's all the same dirtbaggery and lots of other things. But anyway, I think that resonated a lot. And looking at that in Top Gun and the success, and then looking at Cobra Kai, and same thing that what we've talked about with Nobody and Remember What We Used to Be. There's this clear yearning for masculinity and toughness, while also trying to find escape routes to have it be kosher somehow. Like how do we make it work with our current virtue framework in pop culture?
What's the answer? How do they, or I guess, do they answer
Lots of
it in
cheating.
the first? Okay.
Inconsistency and cheating, but it's not coherent. And I've not, like I said, there's seasons of this and I've only seen a couple episodes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't surprise me that it just grabbed.
Gotcha.
That Cobra Kai grabbed and went, because it's Back to the Future. It's playing the contrasting time frames, like a time warp of like a guy from one time lost in this time and how much it's changed, and he's trying to bring back this toughness that was there for this neighbor kid in his apartment complex, and the resistance he's meeting from like the health code worker from the city to, every step of to genderizing to everything else, like just the resistance of two times. Like, so it really does set up this friction between the two that I think is super interesting.
Nice. Yeah. Those postmodern authors, as much as I hate what they do when it's applied to culture, they're very creative when you can flip a binary that makes a story very interesting. So the fact they're flipping the good and the bad and playing with.
I think it could absolutely go off the rails. It's like, but I'm going to watch a couple more. I'm definitely going to, chip away at it. Keep kind of scanning the filters and hope the visual interface continues to work.
There you go.
So there's enough saltiness in there that it's like, too bad.
Gotcha.
But anyway, there we go. We ran a little buffet there.
Yeah.
Cobra Kai, Top Gun, Stephen Lawhead.
Yeah.
My excuses around Silent Bells.
Yeah. Yep. A few metaphors.
And so a metaphor or two. And this has been SASF.
Enjoy, everybody. We do.
It brought me back. It brought me back.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Stories Are Soul Food. You guys, you SASF listeners, are the reason that we lace them up every day. So I wanted to let you guys know about a cool opportunity we have. It is the opportunity to gift Canon Plus to somebody. I had someone email me and tell me gift is not a verb, but I checked. It is a verb. So here's how you gift Canon Plus to someone who either needs it or wants it. Maybe they could even be the same. Go to your profile at mycanonplus.com. That's on the web, not the mobile version. Click on your profile and then select gift a subscription. Choose whether you want to gift 1 month or 1 year of Canon Plus. Enter your name and the person's name and when you want it delivered, and that's it. Ta-da. You've just foisted Canon Plus. Stories Are Soul Food. I don't know, the kids section, whatever you listen to the most, you've given that to somebody. My family, we're always turning on Canon Plus on road trips and listening to the kids section. I've listened to a few theological books that I've been meaning to get through and never had the chance. So yeah, that's your opportunity. Go gift Canon Plus to somebody today.